And we are live, Rangers and overall hockey fans. Thank you guys so much for chiming in. This is Rangers Review, episode 47 on the season and total throughout the episodes so far for myself, Wardy, and my co-host, that being the Stat Boy, Steven. In today's episode, this will be the final episode until after the All-Star break. The Rangers have a couple weeks off now coming up, of course, but we'll be going over the past 4 games for the Rangers, how they fared in those, giving you a quick breakdown on each of those past 4 games, including the Henrik Lundqvist retirement night, that being the number 30 retirement, which was fantastic, other than the game. And then we'll be taking a look at, of course, some key performances, maybe some underperformances during this stretch, and overall what we can expect for the Rangers heading into now the All-Star break and plenty more. So if you guys are listening, wherever you get your podcasts, thank you guys so much for being here. If you're watching live on YouTube, thank you guys so much for being here as well. If you guys don't know, if you watch us live on YouTube on the Rangers Review channel, make sure to subscribe. We'll be taking your questions towards the end of every live stream. So, of course, make sure to hold your questions until the very end. Always appreciated. But, Steven, how are you doing today, my friend?
Good. Tired for some reason. It's
yeah, I said to you, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm out of sorts today. It's one of those days.
It's it's just busy with work.
Yep.
But I am looking forward to my trip in 6 weeks. No, 6 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? No, 4 weeks.
You're coming back to the States soon, right?
Yeah, I'm flying to New York on Saturday, March 4th. And then I'm on to Minnesota on Monday the 6th, watching the Rangers in Minnesota against the Wild.
I'm really curious to see what that experience is going to be like for you. So make sure to relay that to us.
Definitely. And then on Wednesday, we fly to St. Louis, watching the Rangers there. And then we are going to rent a car and drive back north to Dubuque to see the Dubuque Fighting Saints of the USHL, the Iowa Wild, which is the Minnesota Wild's minor league team, and the AHL. Have to make a quick pit stop at the Field of Dreams set because otherwise my fiance will kill me.
I'm glad that at least someone in that relationship has taste.
Oh,
my pro baseball fans over here.
No, she's a huge baseball fan, and she wants to throw and catch a ball at like the Field of Dreams. So we'll be passing it on our way to Des Moines. So definitely pulling over the car there. And then I think on Sunday would be the 13th, March 13th, fly back to New York, spend a week in New York, and then back to Dublin. So I might be able to catch a Rangers game in New York that second week I'm there. We're looking forward to that trip. It's time's flown. I only came back on December 5th, but it feels like it's been 4 or 5 months since I've been there. So, other than that, like I said, I'm a bit tired, but I got my booster shot today, so that might be the reason. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll probably do it.
Yeah, so I'm all cleared up for that flight in 4 weeks. But yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the All-Star game. Just a skills competition. I've never really watched the game itself, but unfortunate that Zibanejad refuses to go, and then Fox ends up injured, so we only have one player going.
But can we just, before we get into the quick recaps of the past 4 games,
sure.
In which I, of course, keep the title because I had the proper amount of goals. I had the less, you had the over, I had the under. So I'm going to keep that belt for another week. If you guys watch the episodes, you know the drill. I went for 3-1. Steven thought the Rangers were going to go 4-0.
One time I'm going all in on this team and they let me down.
I know. That's why you got to be very strategic when you pick having a 0 in that column. It is what it is. I mean, I'll keep it for the next couple of weeks. It's going to sit nice and pretty, by my desk, even though I don't physically have it.
What you wanted to talk about.
I will get to what I wanted to talk about. And that was the All-Star break, just for a second. It is unfortunate that Zibanejad won't be in attendance, but this is something that obviously has become a reoccurring theme in recent years for top players, that just, if they have the option to not show up, a lot of them are not going to show up. And I know that there's a huge divide in the fans of the NHL and people understanding it being forced, saying, okay, I don't want you to potentially get hurt at all. Like, look, if this can eliminate any risk and you just want to take some downtime, maybe you're going to go by the beach for, a week or so during that break. by all means do it. We want playoffs. We want you to be ready to go when it matters most, not during a simple like skills competition, a lousy all-star game that doesn't have nearly as much meaning as what it did a decade ago, right? But then you have the other fans that are really upset because, they take pride in this all-star break because it's for the fans at the end of the day. And they're really upset when their favorite players that are supposed to be going don't show up. And I understand both perspectives completely, but I will say I do tend to find myself a little bit more on the pro player side as someone who selfishly wants to make sure that one, everyone's healthy no matter what, and two, everyone's fresh. I think it's so important, especially for hockey players that go through so much wear and tear throughout a normal 82 game season, to have that kind of break. And if they're eliminated with that type of break because of this, all-star break, I should say, by going to the game or going to skills, I can perfectly understand why they don't want to do it and think it's best for them to kind of just wind down with their family, and whatever it may be. So again, I understand both sides completely. I personally find myself a little bit more on the pro player side because I'm also someone that hasn't had the all-star game experience as a fan. I've never been in attendance before. I think that maybe I'd be swayed a little bit if I do get to do that at some point in my lifetime. But all in all, I know it's a little bit of a debate depending on who you talk to when you're a hockey fan, but that's kind of my stance. So, Steven, what's your quick stance on that before we get into the last couple games for the Rangers?
Look, I don't really care about the All-Star game. I think the All-Star game is just for kids and for new fans to the sport. Real diehard fans are not gonna tune in on a Saturday to watch the All-Star game. If you enjoy it, great. Enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. My biggest gripe is that the New York Rangers actively pushed for fans to vote for Mika Zibanejad to join the All-Star game.
For him just to say, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. When players opt out of the All-Star game, they're suspended for one game. So basically, the team asked us to vote for Zibanejad to be suspended for one game.
I will say
that's my issue. If you were going to ask your fans to vote for someone, ask the player first.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. I will say we don't know the context of it, however. Is this something where maybe Mika initially thought, if I get in, that'd be awesome, I'll go. Maybe something happened last minute that changed his mind. So
the context is irrelevant. The Rangers should have asked, we wanna do this thing on social media to have you voted into the All-Star game. We just want to make sure that you want to go. Because if you're not gonna go, then like I said, we basically voted for Zibanejad to be suspended for a game.
No. I get what you're saying. My point is that the context is important because maybe there is a scenario, not that I think this is likely, but maybe they did approach that with him and initially he was in favor of it. And then halfway through, he changed his mind for one reason or another. I'm saying if that's the case, then okay, I can't really blame the Rangers on that front then.
Maybe the one game suspension doesn't count for players that were voted in with like the last man in vote. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
We're gonna find out, but listen, the All-Star game, it's gonna be fun. If you're into it, go watch it. Chris Kreider is gonna be there.
I'll be more into the skills.
Skills competition is always fun.
Yeah.
You have the hardest shot, you have the relay, you have the fastest skater, you have the breakaway challenge, and like I said, I'll watch the skills competition. The All-Star game itself, I don't really care about because
it's just not what it used to be, especially when you don't even get to properly vote in the people that should be there.
I'd say the last couple of years it has gotten better with the division structure, where you have the divisions play each other. I just wish it wasn't 3-on-3.
Yeah. I mean, if it was like a normal format, I would be more on board with it. I don't like the fact that it's like OT style.
The biggest problem with the All-Star game is that it has this stupid rule that every team needs to be represented.
Yeah, no, that's by far the biggest one. Because if it wasn't that case, Igor is 1,000% in. How do you not have the best goaltender in the AHL in the All-Star game?
Listen, Igor Shesterkin is going to go all Wayne Gretzky on this league and go, listen, you want me to the All-Star game? I'll just win the Vezina instead.
Yeah.
The same way Gretzky was not eligible for the Calder, and he was like, okay, so I cannot win the Calder. Fine. I'll win the MVP instead.
Even though you could also make the argument that Igor isn't just shooting for the Vezina right now. He has an 8-point lead ahead of the next goaltender in the AHL when it comes to, I believe it's save percentage. This man is pushing quite literally for the heart, even though he's not going to get it. He's at that level right now.
Look, he should win the Vezina without a doubt. However, there are some other morons who vote for this. So
yeah,
there's a pretty good chance that it's going to be Vasilevsky. Because when it comes to voting in the NHL, when it comes to awards, when it comes to voting, 9 out of 10 times, it's not going to the player who deserves it, but it's a sympathy, not a sympathy vote. What's the word I'm looking for here? Yeah, sort of like a legacy vote. You know, like the Norris Trophy, Hedman's gonna get votes. Hedman got votes last year, and he had a bad season. Oh, maybe not bad, but he did.
Fox,
he wasn't
when they updated the votes, I want to say over the past 2 weeks, he was like 4th.
Yeah. Hedman being top 3 last season was a sham. He was not a top 10 defenseman in the league last season.
No.
But he got it based on his
Yeah, well, he's done already. It's hard to get cleared of that when you've already had great success.
The right word. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the word here. Not like reputation.
Yes.
Reputation.
Yes.
A lot of these votes are based on reputation, and the Vezina, Vasilevsky is going to get a lot of votes based on reputation.
He will.
But it should be Shesterkin, hands down. The guy is the best goalie in the league, and he should be an MVP finalist. He's the reason the Rangers are in a playoff spot.
Absolutely. I will counter that he is not the only reason, because there was an obnoxious article that came out, I believe it was yesterday, from ESPN writer. I don't even know the guy's name. I've never enjoyed this man because he's had more.
He writes about hockey now. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, he's wrote about the NHL, like that's what he's normally known for. Greg something, but you know I've never been infatuated with that man. And he came out with a piece talking about like there was one specific executive or someone like that, how the Rangers are nothing without Igor. Like I don't disagree with the notion that Igor is by far the biggest backbone for this team, but to not even acknowledge your former Norris winner that's on pace to potentially be a Norris winner again this year, and Adam Fox, and the contributions of a career year by Chris Kreider, things like that in my mind, are like, okay, it's okay to be a casual and just be a stat merchant by just looking at the goaltending numbers and nothing further. But, everyone has their reasons, I guess.
Yeah, but look, apparently in this league, you can be the MVP when one of the best players in the league plays on your team. Like, if you ask me who is the MVP, my vote would go to the guy who has the most value to his team. If you take that player away, they are a far worse team. Yep. If you take Leon Draisaitl away from the Edmonton Oilers, they still have Connor McDavid, and vice versa. But Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are always top 5 in MVP voting.
Absolutely.
So if those can get MVP votes, then Shesterkin should be getting MVP votes. Yes, Fox is on another level this year, and he should win another Norris. He's not going to, because reputation votes, and I think it's going to go to Cale Makar, because Cale Makar has the Calder, and Cale Makar is a 4th overall pick, and Cale Makar scores goals, even though none of that should matter. But I think it's going to be Cale Makar this year.
Yeah, Kale's in the lead right now, and look, I love Cale Makar. It is not the matter of me like thinking that he's not deserving. It's just the fact that when you look at defensive numbers, Makar is still not on the same level as Fox.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And last season, the voters actually understood this because Fox was better defensively than Cale Makar.
Yes.
But if Cale Makar stays healthy and he only misses 5 games in total that he already missed, I think he's going to win the Norris. The trophy that I really want for the Rangers, though, because I've seen a Ranger win the Norris. I've seen a Ranger win the Vezina. You know what trophy I want for an individual Ranger this year? The Rocket Richard. Chris Kreider leads the league in goals with 33.
That crazy mofo. Look,
crazy guy. I was joking earlier today that Chris Kreider always stopped scoring at 28, so his AAV would be low on his next contract. Implying that he did it on purpose. Of course,
could you imagine if Kreider wasn't due for a new contract until after the season? Holy shit.
If Kreider had this season in his final year of his last contract.
I don't see the Rangers bringing him back given his
No,
price point. And two,
no.
whoever would sign him, oh my goodness, that thing would be
Yeah.
ridiculous.
You
Like,
know who Kreider? Kreider reminds me of the guy who won the Rocket Richard in 2006. Do you remember?
no,
Do you remember?
no, no. Why are you comparing him to him?
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Is it a certain player from the San Jose Sharks?
Yeah, Jonathan Cheechoo.
Yes. Why would you even
Because
that's
this
so
season,
disrespectful to
no,
Christ.
no, I'm not saying he's the same caliber player as Jonathan Cheechoo. I'm just saying this is such an outlier of a season in terms of goal scoring.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
He's
look,
on pace for 57 goals. 57.
no, this is literally, I said it last episode and I'll continue saying it until I'm proven otherwise. This is his Adam Graves year.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
so many similarities. That's the crazy
All right,
thing
all
about it with his pace.
Let's not call it a Jonathan Cheechoo year. Let's call it an
Yeah.
Adam Graves
Yeah,
year.
it's an Adam Graves year. I think that's a
But
very respectable way of putting it.
the guy gets 2 power play goals yesterday against
I
the
know,
Florida.
Steven, we got to get into the game.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But I just want to go over Kreider's numbers first.
Okay.
He now has 17 power play goals in 47 games.
I know, it's kind of a big deal.
He's on pace for 27 power play goals.
That'll be the most.
The Rangers' record for most in the season was Jágr in 2006 with 24. The all-time record for power play goals in a single season was Tim Kerr in 1986, who had 34.
Wow. I don't think Kreider is going to get like all time. I think Kreider is going to loom right around Jágr. I think that's how his season's going to finish.
So if Kreider finishes with 27, right, he ties Mike Bossy, Phil Esposito, Brett Hull, Alex McGillney, and Ilya Kovalchuk for 12th all-time for power play goals in a single season.
Is that crazy just to see Kreider's name in consideration with those guys?
And then the players ahead of him were, it's Michael Goulet, Dave Andreychuk, Brett Hull, Joe Nieuwendyk, Mario Lemieux, and then Tim Kerr. Tim Kerr has the record for most power play goals in a single season for the Philadelphia Flyers in 1985-86.
Wow. That's more of an anomaly than what Kreider's doing.
That's the biggest anomaly. Yeah, Kreider's not going to be the biggest anomaly unless he passes Tim Kerr on that list. But Chris Kreider's doing everything. He had, this was his 7th career multi-power play goal game. And by doing that, I think he ranks 4th. Let me look this up because I tweeted it earlier. Yeah. Chris Kreider ranks 4th all time, tied with Andy Hibenton. I hope I pronounced that right. The only 3 players that have more multi-power play goal games as a Ranger, Camille Henry with 11, and then Mika Zibanejad and Phil Esposito with 9.
Oh, wow.
So Zibanejad and Kreider are doing something that has rarely been seen on the Rangers. And the Rangers are an organization that are going to be 96 years old at the end of this season. It's absolutely fascinating what we're seeing this season. The Rangers power play, 28.8% is the all-time record in a single season in 77-78. Currently, this season, the Rangers is their 2nd best power play year ever.
They're at 20. Yeah, I was going to say 25.9. Yep.
25.9%. Since they started tracking power play success or power play rankings, power play percentages, 2nd best season by the Rangers in a single season on the power play. So
it's beyond refreshing to have a good power play. I will say that one.
Yeah, we're looking at something great here. But that was my quick minute on Kreider. It's unbelievable what the guy's been showing us, and he's not stopping. So let's go into the recaps. And then
look, Steven, take it away. Let's start with the game that the Rangers, by all accounts, should have won. And I unfortunately look at this game as another view of some poor goaltending as one of these factors.
The worst thing this team can have is a 2-goal lead, apparently, because
in general, yeah. If you look at the past week, they have not fared well. But we're in Columbus. Go ahead.
In Columbus, Rangers start off great. Minute 29 into the first period, Artemi Panarin with his 12th of the season, assisted by Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren. And then 3 minutes later, Barclay Goodrow doubles the lead, assist by Braden Schneider. So that's an interesting one. and then Panarin with the secondary assist.
That was Schneider's first NHL assist.
And that was his first assist, second point. So good on him. But after that, it went downhill fast. Rangers can see 2 quick goals in 2 minutes 30 seconds. Nyquist assisted by Laine and Jenner, and then Jenner getting the equalizing goal on the power play, assisted by Werenski and Bjorkstrand, and they go into the first intermission tied at 2 after such a great start. And it really took everything out of this team. Like everything they had going the first couple of minutes, it was just gone. Second period didn't get much better. Sean Kuraly puts the Blue Jackets up 3-2, assisted by Domi and Werenski. Then Boone Jenner with his second goal of the game, assisted by Laine. And the Blue Jackets take a 4-2 lead into the second intermission. And then in the third period, Zibanejad with his 16th goal of the season, assisted by Panarin, who had a 3-point game in Columbus. Panarin is I probably have to look that up. I need to invest some time.
He is the daddy of his former clubs.
Artemi Panarin is like the poster child of owning your former employers. Yeah.
And I think what's so funny about his pace against his former teams is the fact that he also had this pace against his future teams. If you look at the Rangers.
Yeah. His first game at Madison Square Garden, like
he was just unstoppable. Yeah,
unbelievable. Rangers cut the lead back to 4-3, but then the Rangers pull their goalie. Sean Kuraly with his 8th of the season on an empty net, with Werenski getting the assist.
This was a frustrating loss.
It was a frustrating loss. But listen, Braden Schneider with 2 assists, nice for him to get his multi-point game this early in his NHL career. Panarin, of course, with 3 points.
Rangers did net 1 on the power play, as did Columbus. So the power plays were working for both sides.
Exactly. Georgiev gave up 4 goals on 18 shots.
It
wasn't his best game, but look, he's a backup. I'm not going to expect him to play like Shesterkin. And we had some really good performances out of Georgiev when Shesterkin was out with injury. So
it's fair.
I'm okay with him putting up a stinker. It's fine. But yeah, the Rangers, just after those first 2 goals, they were chasing the Blue Jackets all game long. Unfortunately, 5-3 loss. Dropping
the third period, they were dominating Columbus though. Like second period, all Columbus. Third period, all Rangers. Like the fact that the Rangers weren't able to fully come back in this one is what was so frustrating about Georgia.
Shots on goal, 36 shots on goal for the Rangers, 18 for the Blue Jackets. We outshot them 2-1. But this was one of those games where the quality of the shots was lacking in my from what I remember. They got some shots on goal, but they weren't really prime scoring chances.
There was plenty that were more from the outside.
Exactly. So it was more quantity than quality. But the Rangers fall 5-3 to the Blue Jackets. They fall to 28, 12, and 4. Then the next night was the night that everyone has been waiting for since a special ceremony was announced. Take it away.
So what was really interesting about this game, this being, of course, Lundqvist's big night, and I will say it was unfortunate how going into this game when we spoke the previous week, how, you thought the Rangers were going to lose because historically they're just not good when it comes to, anything of a special occasion, a special night. That held true. It was pretty funny how it held true, I will say, with Henrik Lundqvist being the biggest jinx of it all that we'll be getting into here in a minute. But I would just like to start.
Sorry. Just to chime in quickly.
Go ahead.
Is there a better way to honor Henrik Lundqvist by giving up a 2-goal lead?
You're not wrong there. But ceremony-wise, everything was perfect. They hit the nail on the head, whatever. It could not have gone better. I was slightly concerned at one point. I thought Kevin Weeks might pass out. He looked a little overwhelmed when he was at the podium. I think that he was just really taking in the raw emotion of it all. So I'm glad he was okay. But outside of that, Henrik, he surprisingly didn't cry. Apparently he cried before it happened. He was getting really emotional. It was awesome seeing him, his family there, all of the Rangers alumni, of course, and all the gifts were so cool. I love the fact that he was gifted a guitar by, Dave Art that does his helmets usually to do the custom himself from Sweden. Of course, the big Louis Vuitton chest, because why wouldn't Hank want something like that? And some wine from the team. That was fun.
No. You're missing my favorite gift.
What was your favorite gift?
So the equipment manager.
Oh, yes. That was so damn impressive. The fact that they kept a puck from every single one of his shutouts. Yeah. My goodness gracious. I don't know if this is something that they've always been building or if they really had to do digging online. I don't know how they made that happen. But that, and also, of course, because the Rangers equipment manager, if my memory's not mistaken, he is battling cancer right now, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so obviously it was very emotional for him, and I'm praying that he's going to be okay. He's been with the Rangers a long time, just along with plenty of the other Rangers equipment people, and also medically with what's the one gentleman's name that I'm forgetting that helps out medically? He's been with the Rangers for decades.
Jim Ramsey.
Yes. Jim Ramsey. All that core group. Love them all to death, but you could see Hank got emotional there.
Frame, and maybe this is just me as a collector of pucks, but when I saw that frame, that gave me goosebumps. That was such a beautiful gift.
That's sick.
A $500,000 sports car cannot compete with that gift because it's.
Hank already has a $500,000 sports car. Exactly.
What that gift represents. Like you said, the effort that had to go into that,
and the sentiment more than this is not something that you can replace. The
memories, and I looked up pictures of the ceremony where they had a picture of this frame, and I was looking at all these pucks and all these different designs of pucks over the years, and it was beautiful. That was my favorite gift of the night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a thing of beauty. It really was. But just overall, the entire ceremony, finally seeing Hank a part of this Ranger alumni. Not that he wasn't already, but just seeing him kind of, hand in hand with all the Ranger legends now.
One sad moment. This was the first retirement night without Rod Gilbert.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, and of course, rest in peace to Rod. And it is upsetting, obviously, but he's looking down, of course, and seeing that he's able to have Henrik, alongside him, in MSG forever, which is an amazing thing. And unfortunately, when you look at that ceremony, it was fantastic. But after that, the Rangers got off to that horrid 2-goal lead. That was something that has bit them in the ass for a little bit now. And look, starting off again, Barclay Goodrow might make something very fun for you. Going into this game, I went on DraftKings Sportsbook and I did a 4-pick parlay. And I had Barclay Goodrow scoring, Chris Kreider scoring, Matt Zuccarello scoring, and Kirill Kaprizov. And if I hit all those 4, and it's funny how the one man that did not score was probably realistic for. Yes, if I hit, I would have won $900 for only a $10 bet. So because I knew Zook was scoring, that was inevitable. Goodrow I picked solely because of the fact that he was flying all over the place against Columbus. I'm like, I like his odds of doing well. And Kreider's just an easy lock. So I'm not breaking his foot over it. It was just funny how I was like, this is this is what I get for choosing that anyone that isn't a Ranger is going to score in this game. But
the only goal you were missing was scored by Frederick Gaudreau.
or Fiala. I did debate on Fiala a little bit.
Fiala's having a good season, by the way.
Yeah, anyway. He is. Very underrated player. I've always liked Fiala back when he was with Nashville. But either way, Gaudreau gets the first goals, 10th of the season, assisted by Trouba and Strome. Chris Kreider does what Chris Kreider does, gets a nice goal in front right in the crease. 31st of the year, assisted by Trouba and Zibanejad. Rangers get off to a 2-goal lead. Then the damn second period begins. Kevin Fiala gets a nice shot off, his 12th of the year, assisted by Ryan Hartman, who has really come around and went full circle in his career. Started hot in his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, bounced around a bit, didn't do too well. Now he's in a top 6 role with the Minnesota Wild, and he's been thriving with them. He's been their leading goal scorer going into this game, believe it or not. Assisted by Jordy Ben, Jamie Ben's brother. And then the second goal, and both these goals happened when Henrik Lundqvist was speaking in the booth, of course, with Sam and Joe. And it was funny because Zook gets the puck on the power play, and I knew he was scoring right away. And Hank says, "Oh, don't let this guy score." And he just rips one from the point. His 13th of the year to tie it up 2-2, assisted by Kaprizov. and Boldy. Boldy's fourth apple this season. Boldy, of course, was called up recently for Minnesota, former first-round pick a couple years ago that has a very promising future. And then the third period, the man who missed on a penalty shot because he didn't have any mitts there, and Igor read him like no tomorrow, did get himself a nice goal, no less, that being Frederick Gaudreau, his third of the year, assisted by Fiala and Zuccarello. And that's all she wrote. The Rangers were in a very controversial fashion right at the end of the game, however, with right around a second left. It looked like the Rangers scored, but then they called no. They blew the whistle first because Ryan Strom's damn stick apparently pushed the pad of Cam Talbot slightly in to be enough of an effect to say that, yeah, no goal. There was too much interference, even though Ryan Strome was pushed from a Minnesota Wild defenseman behind him that led him to falling originally. But again, I was frustrated with that call. I can understand a little bit about the pad being pushed in, however, just really frustrating for the game to end in that fashion. It had perfect timing written all over it for the Rangers to tie last second to go into OT and hopefully get a comeback going. But Rangers lost at this one, a dramatic loss for sure. When you look at the numbers throughout this game in particular, performance-wise, 34-27 favor the Wild in shots. Same thing with faceoffs. Power play favored the Wild 1-for-2. Rangers were 0-for-2. Hits favored the Wild 23-18. Blocks 16-8. Giveaways 10-5 in favor of Minnesota. But one thing that I acknowledge right away in this game, which was so interesting, Steven, Minnesota's been having a good year, right? But something that I've noticed a lot is how damn good they were against the Rangers. And I know it was a back-to-back, but they were just pinning the Rangers every single chance that Rangers tried to get in the offensive zone. They had a little to no puck movement that they were able to get off of that early 2-goal lead. That's literally all the Rangers got. And this was a loss that was very different than Columbus in the sense where the Rangers, of course, had a bad period in Columbus, but really looked like a game that they would have had if Guriev wasn't in net. This is a game where Igor is the only reason why the Rangers had this game even close after that 2-goal lead. They were pinned to the corners left and right. The forechecking was sublime from what I saw from Minnesota. I got a lot of flashbacks to that Carolina game. This team is playing above expectations. They look deep, and they have some really young, talented players, too, that are starting to step up for them if they need to, given the contracts that they're eating in Ryan Suter, Zach Parise. So they're getting the young guys to step up. But yeah, huge props to Minnesota. It was a frustrating loss for the Rangers on Henrik Lundqvist's big night. But man, oh man, they outplayed the Rangers in a lot of ways in this game. And it was another little bit of a reality check. You know, the Rangers depth-wise are not nearly on that level. The same reason why going into the Florida game that we'll be getting into shortly, where I did not feel good going into it, knowing how deep the Florida Panthers are as a collective team versus someone like the Rangers that are so top six heavy. But Steven, any final comments on the Henrik Lundqvist night?
Yeah, only the second time this season the Rangers lose 2 games in a row in regulation.
Wow.
The first time was, I think, in December when they lost to the Predators and the Avalanche. About the last second thing, I'm going to be completely honest. It was the right call.
I think it would have been an even righter call if Strome wasn't pushed.
I've been over this video of the goal a couple of times, of the no goal. Sorry. Strome's stick makes contact with Talbot's pad before he's pushed, and that's the defining factor here. So the contact was already made, and at that point, it's goaltender interference. You're interfering with the goaltender's ability to make a save. Whatever happens after that, the pad being pushed into the net because Strome is pushed from behind, that's all after the fact. The moment the stick touches the goalie's pad, it's goaltender interference. It was the right call. It's unfortunate, but it was the right call. Rangers lose again when they retire a number. It's become tradition. I'll say this, though. It was an amazing night. The Rangers retired a number that we all knew was going to be up there. And, yeah, it's unfortunate I couldn't make it to New York for this one. But I know the people that were there, they thoroughly enjoyed it. And unfortunately, they didn't come away with a win. But, you know, you cannot win them all. I do like that not only was Shesterkin in net for the Rangers, but Cam Talbot was in net for the Wild. So you have 2 goalies that have played with Henrik Lundqvist who are in this game on the ice. I think that's pretty cool. Zuccarello scoring, Ranger fans going crazy about it,
A
because
Ranger
he's
fans going crazy every single time they pan to Zook on the big screen, which I thought was hilarious. It didn't
yeah,
matter at any point during
yeah.
Henrik's ceremony, just for
Mhm.
a quick second. You just heard all the Zooks pouring down. Look,
Mhm.
I love Zook more than I love life itself. I mean, that man could get 10 goals on the Rangers, and I'm going to be, smiling cheek to cheek. Like, that doesn't phase me. I'm just unfortunate that the Rangers weren't able to put up a better performance after those first quick goals.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And they dropped to 28, 13, and 4. Um, yeah, I would probably swap the Kraken result for the Wild result, and I'm pretty sure every Ranger would,
Yeah.
because those are games you really want to win. But at the end of the day, it was a beautiful ceremony. They really took their time. On the same night, the Dallas Stars retired number 56 for Sergei Zubov, by the way.
Which I will say, I wasn't mad. I was slightly bothered that the Dallas had to, of course, have a retirement night the same night as Lundqvist's.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know whose was announced first, however, so I don't want to draw conclusions without having background info. I will say, however, I'm not that bothered by it, of course, knowing that was Zubov too. I mean, like, talk about a great Ranger that the Rangers should have never gave up. It starts with him and then it goes down the list, right? So, I mean, I'm happy for him. It sucks. I'm sure he wasn't at that game long because Dallas just got pistol whipped by the Capitals. I think it was like 5-0 last time I checked from that game. So both teams were not able to get a favorable win that night, unfortunately.
we're not the only ones who suck when we retire a number,
Yeah.
apparently. So,
Yes.
but yeah, they lose, and then they move on to Seattle on Sunday afternoon. 1 p.m. game at the Garden. A lot of kids in attendance. First game ever for the Seattle Kraken at Madison Square Garden. And the last time the Rangers played a new team at the Garden, it was Jimmy Vesey opening the scoring back in 2017 against the Vegas Golden Knights. This time it was Mika Zibanejad on the power play, and it was probably one of the nicest goals of the season. I don't think the goal gets enough credit for how beautiful the passing was. And of course, the Rangers are doing it without Adam Fox, who also missed a game against Minnesota.
And
So
you can
Jacob,
tell that Fox has been missed over these past couple
you
games.
can tell. But Jacob Trouba on the power play is still making it work. It's not as smooth and slick as it was with Fox, but it still works. Rangers get the first goal of the game after 11 minutes, 46 seconds. Panarin and Trouba getting the assists. And then in the second period, probably also one of my favorite goals of the season, but for completely different reasons. You know better than anyone how vocal I have been about the fact that the Rangers absolutely suck at building sustained pressure in the offensive zone. I've said it so many times. I should just record it and hit play every time I want to bring it up.
Yep.
This goal, the goal by Alexis Lafreniere in the second period, they did exactly what I've been asking for months. The Rangers were able to set up in the Kraken zone. It was the second period where you have the long change, so you have a little bit more room to work with. And they were able to keep the puck in the zone. Seattle tried to clear it a couple of times, but the Rangers keep the puck in the zone to the point where the Kraken players cannot get off the ice. And I was talking to someone on Twitter while I was watching this, and I go, if the Rangers can score here, that's a huge statement. And then Jones gets the puck to Zibanejad. Zibanejad shoots, and on the rebound, Alexis Lafreniere, basically an empty net, gets his 9th of the season. That goal, I think, was more instrumental to the Rangers' success moving forward than any power play goal, because that's the type of goal they've been missing so far this season.
No, you're 100% right, and it was so damn refreshing to see that actually transpire.
It was. Unfortunately, that beautiful goal resulted in a 2-goal lead, and we know how the Rangers deal with 2-goal leads.
Yep.
So
I was sitting at a restaurant, and thankfully to my right, perfectly I could see the game. And as I was chiming in, I going into that game, I'm like, Jerry McCann's scoring. That was the first thing that thought in my head. I'm like, there's one guy that I think's a safe bet. It's him, and lo and behold, take it away.
3 minutes later, Jared McCann scoring the first Seattle Kraken goal ever at Madison Square Garden, assisted by Eberle and Marcus Johansson. And then third period, Seattle Kraken on the power play. They pull their goalie. And Yanni Gourde, who was actually the player I wanted from Tampa this offseason. We ended up with Goudreau, but man, I would have loved to get Yanni Gourde.
Yeah, he's very underrated.
10th of the season, assisted by Mark Giordano and Jared McCann, getting a second point of the game. And then the Rangers, in Ranger fashion, they give up a 2-goal lead, and everyone's preparing for overtime, except for one man. Actually, two, because Mika Zibanejad won a faceoff. And that faceoff, no, actually three. Mika Zibanejad winning the faceoff. Chris Kreider getting away with a weird interference there.
Yep.
How that was not called, I don't know. Puck goes backwards to the blue line, ends up on Keandre Miller's stick, and he rifles it.
Talk about a step up for Keandre. This was huge for him because this is the same Keandre Miller that also had a breakaway in this game, but unfortunately fell short.
Yeah.
So to see him get that this was a game that I saw was beautifully said on by Igor post game, right? In the sense of, it's not for the opposing team, it's about, how many chances can they get? Like how many times are they able to score? And for the Rangers, it's just about when do they want to score? Like seeing like the Rangers can just pick and choose when they're going to win the game. And Keandre, just beautiful snipe. That was one of the best. He's only had 3 goals this year, so obviously one of the best offensive performances he's put up. But yeah, go ahead. What was your continued take on Keandre in this one? And of course, the Rangers have the win.
Look, that breakaway, I cursed at my screen because we needed the goal there. We really needed the goal there. But he made up for it. Gets his second game-winning goal of his career. Rangers recover after 2 regulation losses with a win against the Seattle Kraken.
And it wasn't a pretty one either.
It wasn't a pretty one, but you need to win ugly games too. They're not all going to be 7-1 beatings of your opponents. A 3-2 win where you score in the final minute of the game against the Seattle Kraken team that is going to have a top 5 pick in the draft. Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but I'll take the 3 points where I can get them. Mika Zibanejad, though, 3 points. Mika Zibanejad is heating up. Before we go into the last game, I won't mention the numbers of his last game, but the games prior to that, if you look at like the last couple of weeks, he had so starting this year, he had 2 3-point games, 2 2-point games, and I think 7 games with 1 point. He has only had since the new year 2 games where he did not get on the board. It was at home against the Edmonton Oilers, and the other one at home against the LA Kings. Every other game this year so far, he's gotten either a goal or assist. So Zibanejad's heating up.
My only concern with someone like Zibanejad, to be quite honest with you, is how is this All-Star break going to affect him? And we'll get into that more shortly towards the end of the episode, but it's something that I always get concerned about as a fan when you have a couple weeks off. I know the Rangers already had a little bit of a break around the holidays, but not for necessarily just the holidays, obviously. But how are the Rangers going to respond in this second half after having that lengthy time off is going to be huge for the testament of evaluating this team down the stretch. But before we get on to the final game, just want to reiterate again, Rangers, this was by all accounts not a pretty game. Seattle, who, let's face it, is not a good team in their first year in the league. 42 shots to the Rangers, 24 in this one. Rangers did win faceoffs, 56-44. Power play, both had a power play goal apiece. Hits right around the same, 24-23. Blocks dominated by the Rangers, 22-12. And giveaways favored by Kraken, 3-8. So to not take more of an advantage against a, quite frankly, piss poor team in the Kraken, they are not good. No one should think that they're going to dominate at any point, right? To this point in their early franchise's existence. But for the Rangers to play like this, I love the fact that right after the game, Gallant was basically pissed. He said, I'm disgusted. This was not a good game at all. I'm glad we won, but that's the only positive out of it. So I'm really glad that the Rangers have a head coach that's able to tell it like it is, because I feel like that's something that gets lost at times depending on who your coach is. And he was 1,000% right. This was a game that the Rangers needed to play better in. Thankfully, they got the win, but by no means were they deserving of it, really, until the very end once they got that goal by Miller. But when you talk about a game that the Rangers were deserving of win, this was probably one of the more impressive games of the season when you take in all accounts. And yes, I know the Florida Panthers are a team that just came off of a back-to-back. It was their second of a back-to-back. They dominated the same team that beat the Rangers a couple games ago by a total of 8-4, with your boy Antoine Lundell being player of the week, 5 assists in this game.
I know. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that
yeah.
It's doing well.
I'm so happy that he's doing well and that he didn't ball out against the Rangers. It's a win-win. It works out for both sides, right? Marchment, who had a 6-point game in that game in Columbus. Florida was going guns a-blazing in this one, and they proved to look like a team that was unbelievably deep. I saw a lot of similarities early on in this one, as I did against Carolina, the Colorado Avalanche. But thankfully, after that first period, the Rangers really started to step up and got into rhythm. There were some terrible calls that didn't go the Rangers' way. There were some things that maybe the Rangers should have been called for that weren't. So thankfully, it worked. It kind of balanced, but it was frustrating watching this on ESPN Plus as well. There was definitely a little bit of a bias going on. Not that Florida doesn't deserve praise. They absolutely do, but it felt pretty one side. Igor was making stellar saves left and right, and there was like, oh yeah, and it was stopped by Igor. And then when Spencer Knight makes one nice flashy glove save, oh my goodness, the place is about to pop off. But getting into this one, let's start with the man of the hour, the man we were just discussing, Mika Zibanejad. Right in the beginning of the game, we see Ryan Reeves on that right wing. I'm thinking, what is going on, Gallant? Lafreniere was slotted in at the right wing, according to Vince Mercogliano, going into this one. So it's a little frustrating to see Revo there first, but thankfully, it didn't seem to be a problem. Right as the Rangers bring up the rush, Mika Zibanejad does a nice little backhand pass, I believe, and it goes in, and it hits off the defenseman, thankfully, and that's the first goal. You thought, okay, maybe Reeves got the goal there. No, it actually ended up going to Zibanejad, his 18th of the year.
Right? I think it was
it was Forsling to hit off of, I believe. Only 35 seconds into this one, folks, and Mika stays hot one way or another. But then right after that, what happens? Yes, there is a goal.
Best thing that could happen to this team is not scoring the second goal.
Yes, you're right. You're 1,000% right with what the pace they've been on. And it looks like Owen Tippett scores a goal, which at that point was a nice snipe. Honestly, a shot where maybe you would have liked Igor to have, but it was just a nice shot by Tippett that kind of threw him off a little bit. But Gallant, being the tricky man he is, challenges it for an offsides, and it goes in the Rangers' favor. Only took a couple minutes, however, for the former Ranger and the Duke himself, Anthony Duclair, to snipe a beautiful read by Libor Hayek to just completely evade Duke as soon as they went to the offensive zone.
He channeled his inner Girardi there.
He really, oh my goodness, it was so bad. And this wasn't the first time that we saw Libor Hayek just have a piss poor defensive play in this game. It was quite frustrating, I will say that much. I hope Gallant notices this the same way he's noticed Nemeth not being anything more than a pylon, which is why Nemeth has been a healthy scratch in recent games. So we'll see what happens post All-Star break. But Hayek goes away from Duclair on the right side. I don't know why. Duclair's wide open, gets a beautiful shot off, beats Igor. That's his 19th of the year. Duclair has finally found a home in Florida. So happy for him. Love Duclair. Nothing against the man. Assisted by Huberdeau and Barkov, the 1-2 punch, of course, for the Panthers. Then we get on to the second period, and the Rangers lose the tie. This being a power play goal by Sam Reinhart, one of the more underrated players in the league, I may say. I was a big fan of Reinhart in his past couple of years in Buffalo. Then when he went to Florida, I'm like, that is a very sneaky good pickup. That is going to benefit them a lot and quickly, and it has. Reinhart is 16th of the year, assisted by Barkov and Ekblad. And then we have the man who was put back on the first line after Revo originally being there, not being Alexis Lafreniere, and he scores beautifully. 5-hole. I think it was a little bit of a backhand 5-hole he got going around the net in front on Spencer Knight. That's going to be Alexis Lafreniere's 10th goal of the year, assisted by Kreider. And then we get on to the Chris Kreider show. Yes, to cap things off towards the end of that period, just around 3 minutes left. Chris Kreider gets his 32nd goal of the season, assisted by Stromer and Panarin. And right at the end of this period, there was a non-call that should have been called. A bad play on Strome, not for him to get the penalty, but for a penalty to be issued because of what happened to him. Strome, of course, got in a fight. I really liked how he stepped up for himself in this one. was a empty netter away, or just a goal away, I should say, from a Gordie Howe hat trick. Ryan Strome played a good game in this one. But getting on to the third period, Chris Kreider, 33rd of the year, power play, beautiful setup by Zibanejad right in front doorstep. Kreider's just smiling. He's like, I don't have to do anything. I'm just standing here. That's how I was when I played a couple months of hockey.
Before we, I just want to quickly touch on that goal.
Yeah.
If you rewatch that goal, and you, from the moment Kreider passes the puck to Zibanejad, keep your eye on Kreider and notice how leisurely he positions himself next to the net.
Yep.
If he rushes to the net, Spencer Knight sees it.
Yep.
But because he so leisurely glides towards the side of the net, not even Spencer Knight knows he's there.
I know. He's like a silent assassin.
Silent assassin, exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, it was a beautiful move, beautiful pass by Zibanejad, and Kreider, 33rd goal of the season, 17th power play goal. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
He could have had one more.
I know. And look, Panarin got his 39th apple on that one. And Breadman finishes things off, gets an empty netter in this one on the power play still towards the end of the game because Florida got a penalty with like $1:30 left or so. But Kreider easily could have just took up the rush with Panarin. He said no, he stopped. Panarin gets the empty netter. He looks back at him. He's throwing his hands up in the air. He's like, what? What are you doing? You could have added the hat trick, but that just shows you the selflessness that is Chris Kreider. He's always been that way. He has never been a selfish player. And I mean, my dad is screaming to the rooftops after every game, and I don't blame him. I was screaming this going into the season. Chris Kreider needs to be captain, all right? This is getting ridiculous, man. Yeah. He's just exhibiting time and time again. He's not just having a career year, but it's the way he goes about himself. He has the personality, the character, and overall the leadership to be the embodiment of what it means as a Rangers captain. I'm loving all these characteristics about him. And he just proving time and time again with something like this, so selfless. So I really appreciate that for Kreider. I know most Ranger fans do as well. And something that really needs to be noted about this game before I go into the numbers here and then we go into our final thoughts before taking questions in this episode is Igor Shesterkin and his ability with the puck. Ever since Igor landed with the Rangers, this is something that my family and I, we've always agreed. And Kreider said it post-game himself. He's like, I love Hank, but that's just something that I was never comfortable with.
I was going to bring this up. He goes,
exactly.
I love Hank to death, but he never did this.
No. Hank was mediocre at best with handling the puck.
And then he turns to Zibanejad and he goes, is it a Russian thing? And Zibanejad goes, and Kreider goes, that's an Igor thing.
Yeah.
that was so funny. But the way Kreider described it too, and I'm so happy that a player says this for once. Igor Shesterkin's ability to play the puck makes it harder for opponents to dump the puck. It makes it easier for our defensemen because it takes so much pressure off of the defenseman. You basically have a third defenseman out there.
Yep.
And then Kreider ends it with the epic line. His passing's probably better than mine anyway.
His hands, he's got better mitts than I do. Like,
he has better hands and better passing than
look,
me.
Kreider's first goal this game doesn't happen without Igor playing the puck so well. And then Strome caps it off because he gets a beautiful saucer to Kreider, just tap it in. So, Igor has not just been tremendous as a goaltender, but his ability to play the puck is truly unprecedented. And that's something where us Ranger fans, I always wanted from Hank. Like, Hank was the king. But the one thing he was not superior at was playing the puck. That's always been the case. My family and I, we would always joke about it, be like, "Why is this the one?" Hank can literally do a header of a slap shot coming his way because he's showing his inner soccer self, but he can't actually pass the puck the same way that you pass the soccer ball. I don't understand it.
Let's be honest. Henrik Lundqvist is terrible playing the puck. Always has been.
No, it's just so weird, but it's so refreshing to have a goaltender that actually knows what the hell to do with it when it's actually by him. Like Igor, I mean, one-on-one, if Igor's matched up with an opposing player, they're both going after the puck, by God, I'm taking Igor 9 out of 10 times, at least. Like, you know that you have a very good chance of him getting that puck away or getting a nice play to get into the offensive zone for the Rangers, one way or another. So to recap things, again, statistically in this matchup, the Rangers, outside of that first period, really came together and was one of their better wins of the season, solely based on their opponent. I'm not going to put too much stock in the Panthers playing the night before because they wiped the floor with Columbus. So for the Rangers to do what they did here, was huge in my mind. I think it was absolutely ginormous, especially after having a slow start. Panthers outshot the Rangers only by 36-35. The Rangers got a lot of offensive opportunities. Face-offs favor the Panthers 55-45. Power play dominated by the Rangers. That was the X factor. 3 out of 5 to the Panthers, 1 out of 3. Hits dominated by the Rangers too, 38-25. Blocks right around the same, 16-14 favoring the Panthers, and giveaways tied apiece at 9. So in a nutshell, out of this game, things that really stood out to me, obviously Chris Kreider, obviously Mika Zibanejad, obviously Artemi Panarin, who I was hoping Panarin was going to go up against Bobrovsky because I love that friendship and he normally plays well against him, but he still did the same against Spencer Knight in this one, had a very good outing. And when you look at the numbers overall for the Rangers over these past 4 games, it's the big 3, right? It's Panarin, 7 points in these past 4 games, 2 goals and 5 assists. It's Mika, 7 points in these past 4 games, 3 goals, 4 assists. It's Kreider, 4 points in these past 4 games, even though that, yes, he had a little bit, up until this game, he was on a little bit of a slump. He was, I wouldn't even say it was it wasn't even a slump. It was just like kind of a normal Kreider. Like he was not going to score every game. And the big thing with him though, is that when he doesn't score, a lot of times Kreider really does look like he's out of place. Like, I don't know. There's something about him. When he's off, he's really off, right? And thankfully, that didn't last more than a couple games because he still had 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points over these past 4. Jacob Trouba, 3 points over these past 4 games. Keandre Miller with a clutch goal for the game winner, who I think has been playing far better over these past couple games than he was the week prior. Libor Hajek, who I think is struggling mightily. Is there any more remarks you'd like to give on Hajek and really what you think might be next for the Rangers with him? Because you'd have to think Lunt has seen enough of him by now to know that, yeah, we should probably try to consider Niels again. I know that young deep pairs aren't the best thing to always commit to, but
still better than Hajek.
Exactly. Like I'm still taking Jones, Niels, Schneider any day of the week over the Hayeks of the world, over the Nemeths. And Tenorti, thankfully, isn't even a thought anymore.
Look, teams do not win cups when they have millions in cap penalties and when they have AHL caliber defensemen on the ice. This season, the Rangers have both. They have $4 million in cap penalties, and they continuously trot out guys like Tenorti, Nemeth, and Hajek. And it's just when those players are on the team, you're not gonna win. We saw the same thing with Stu Bickle in 2012.
Yes, we did. The forward end defenseman, Stu Bickle, that is.
Stu Bickle, who played 3 minutes and I think 47 seconds in a triple overtime game.
Oh my God, that was so peak Tortorella.
Yes.
He was trying to do his best Mike Keenan impression, but instead of Leach, it was Stu Bickle.
Why even play him? And I feel the same way about Hajek. I feel the same way about Nemeth and Tenorti. It just, I've said everything I want to say about this. You know, it's just a waste of breath at this point to talk about it even further. But before we get into the Q&A, quick little observation that I saw this like a year ago or something, so I shared it during the Lundqvist retirement night. Henrik Lundqvist has more points in the NHL than his brother Joel, even though he's a goalie.
Yep, I knew that.
Henrik Lundqvist leads all Ranger goalies in points with 27. You want to guess who's second with 25?
For Ranger goalies?
Yep.
Points. Is it someone that's prominent? Is he like one of the more prominent Ranger goaltenders?
Oh, he was a prominent Rangers goalie. Yeah. He played for about a decade, yeah.
Richter?
No, it's not Richter. Richter is third with 11 points.
And it's not JD.
JD has 5.
Okay. And there's one goaltender I'm thinking of then. Is it Van Beesbrook?
There you go. Van Beesbrook with 25 points. Jacquemin with 8. Then there's John Davidson, Glenn Healy, and Stephen Weeks with 5. Then Bob Froese and Alexander Georgiev with 4. And then a bunch of other goalies with like 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. But yeah, for all his lack of puck moving ability, Henrik Lundqvist still 27 points in his career as a goalie.
Yeah,
Not bad.
he's still the Kane, right?
Not bad.
Love
Most of
that.
those assists were probably him just settling the puck behind the net, and
Yep,
then
it's just me
and then
taking off.
having Roosevelt or something, or McDonough skated up the ice. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, it doesn't matter
doesn't matter how
how
you
it
get it.
happens.
Yeah.
Just matters if it happens, right? But
Imagine a second frame with the goal pucks of those 27 points.
yep. Two things to touch on briefly here. One, just want to say again, I know I mentioned it earlier, but Lafreniere taking advantage, I think, is huge. I think this is a nice
Yeah.
confidence boost for him going into the All-Star break. And
Keep him
also
on that first line. Keep him on that first line.
keep him on that first. And Laffy said that he views he of course is talented enough where if he needs to permanently be moved to the right wing, he's comfortable doing it. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Gallant's
Mhm.
mindset is and what he comes up with post All-Star break. And
And then when
also Kako.
Kako comes back, put him back with Panarin and Strome, where
Yeah,
he had the best stretch of the season.
let that be your
And
top six.
for the love of God, can we put Dryden Hunt back in the bottom six where he belongs?
Yes.
Nothing against Dryden Hunt, but he's just not top six material.
Just bring depth to this. I'm to the point where third line wise, I genuinely wouldn't be bothered if you have Goudreau centering, Heedle at left. I think Heedle on the wing's better. And then you either have a Gauthier there, which I think is perfectly fine. I wouldn't even be upset if you threw Revo in there every once in a while. I don't think that would be a detriment to success. But Gauthier, because Gauthier does literally everything but score. He actually has some of the worst numbers in all the AHL this year in finishing ability. It's kind of funny. Like he has everything but goal
The
scoring.
guy draws penalties.
Yeah.
And that's something that's not always noticed by fans, but the guy draws penalties that we score on.
Yep. Same thing that didn't get noticed during Brendan Lemieux's time with the Rangers. Lemieux actually drew quite a bit of penalties during his short stint here. And that was something that, again, you don't acknowledge much because it's not a fancy stat, but it's important.
I went over those numbers of Lemieux. Most of those drawn penalties are either offsetting penalties or fighting majors.
Okay.
So he has on NHL, you can go to the stats page and you can filter on penalties drawn and penalties taken. If you look at the total for last season, the penalties drawn and penalties taken for Lemieux is dead even.
Oh, okay.
Where I think Gauthier's penalties drawn versus penalties taken was, I think, a +5 or +6.
Gotcha.
Gauthier draws penalties where the Rangers actually end up with a power play and where they actually score on the power play.
And it's important when you look at Gauthier, his ability, because he's nothing short of just a big-bodied high flyer. He's an unbelievably skilled athlete. So naturally, you're going to have this guy just swinging by you around the net. Yeah, you might get a hooking or a slashing call in doing so. So
happened last night. That's
Yep.
how the Rangers ended up on the power play in the third period.
Exactly. So he honestly does. He's always given me similarities of Kreider. Now it's just going to be the matter of rounding out his raw game. He's a 2016 first-round pick. He's in his mid-20s now. When is it all going to come together? And don't get me wrong, this is a player that's always been sheltered playing time throughout his career, even though, yes, you have to earn it. Point being is that the athleticism has always been there with Gauthier. It's really just about rounding things out and maybe getting a little bit more simplistic. Like he's someone that he's getting at least one breakaway a game, very Carl Hagelin-esque. But like Hagelin a lot of times has struggled to bury, like it's those things that he needs to round out. I think that there's still potential for him. I like him in this Rangers lineup. I think that he gives you a spark that, by all means, is light years ahead of a Dryden Hunt. Not to single out Dryden Hunt, but you get where I'm going with this. He just gives you more of a flash of what potentially could be something in the game versus just nothing at all, just being a placeholder. So, in a nutshell, I think Gauthier, there's more to be had there. I think he's still a work in progress, obviously, but he definitely has the ability. He's just very raw in his hands. That's the biggest thing. If maybe Kreider can give him some pointers too on just crashing the net, but knowing how to be a little bit more subtle, that silent assassin. I feel like Gauthier, you kind of hear him from a mile away coming in at you. A little bit of a difference, right? So something that happens with maturity in the game of the NHL, and hopefully that's something that happens with him too. And final thing I want to get into here is, as you mentioned earlier, taxi squad elimination. So for those that don't know, of course, we will not have a taxi squad after the All-Star break because players that are not showing symptoms that are asymptomatic are not going to be tested. So we're not going to see as many players out, hopefully, on the COVID list and stuff like that. So all the Rangers that were currently there, that being, Brodzinski and Niels and plenty of other players, Morgan Barron, etc., they're all down. That's because the All-Star break, no one should be fazed by that. Barron is someone who I think has played exceptionally well at times. I expect him back with the team, hopefully. Niels is going to be an interesting factor as to what Lieber Hayek's future is going to be post All-Star break. But all in all, don't be fazed by them being sent down. The obvious reason is because we're in this All-Star break.
Yeah, and during the All-Star break, of course, the Hartford Wolfpack is still playing.
Yep.
So they're playing tonight against the Hershey Bears. And I think on the weekend they play the Providence Bruins and the Springfield Thunderbirds, I think. I don't know. The other team I'm blanking on, but I think they played 3 games this week, so it makes sense for those players to go back to Hartford, get some minutes in. And yeah, Schneider and Jones are staying on the team on paper, so
as they should.
But I mean, I wouldn't be totally opposed to sending him to Hartford for a week.
I wouldn't be opposed to it either, but you could tell that the Rangers have more commitment with them than Niels, that they just want to make sure that they're just, stand pat, enjoy this break. You're with us right now. So we don't want you to think otherwise, maybe.
All right. You ready for some questions?
Yeah. All right, guys. So if you're watching this during the live stream listening on YouTube, we're going to be doing our open Q&A now for the next couple minutes. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns over the next 5-10 minutes, we'll make sure to answer them. And outside of that, thank you guys all so much for being here. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, please leave a nice review. You guys do somehow, some way enjoy this Rangers podcast. Myself, Wardy, alongside Statboy Steven. You guys probably know us from either Twitter or especially for me, for my other YouTube channel. That's where I'm known for Wardy, as Wardy NYM, covering the New York Mets. But yeah, ask away any questions you guys got, and then we will round things out for this episode 47 of Rangers Review. Let's see. Good question here from Mike. Says, hey, Steven, I've seen you say Othman can play the right wing. Where have you seen him play the right wing? I have tried to find games. I have not seen any so far, says Mike.
Okay, well, he's played on the right wing when he was with the Don Mills Flyers in the under 16 level. Played a couple of games on the right wing for Canada's junior teams. And when you watch the Flint Firebirds, he's always listed as a left wing, but occasionally, depending on where the face-off is, on which dot they have to face off, he starts on the right. So he plays on a line in Flint that's very fluid. It's a very dynamic line. It's not very static, where the left wing is always on the left and the right wing is always on the right. But yeah, I spoke to people close to Brennan Othman to confirm that, and they said, yeah, he has experience playing on the right wing, and he has no problem there at all. Unlike a guy like Will Cooley, who has indicated that he's uncomfortable playing on the right side because, especially defensively, when you're on the opposite side, you defend with your backhand, and not every player is comfortable in that position. But when it comes to Othman, and also Brett Berard, by the way, that's not a concern.
Yeah. Good breakdown, Steven. Appreciate that. So that way Mike knows now. David Glazer says, this team has too many third-line players to go far in the playoffs. Can the team make a deal for someone like Hurdle? Big body with speed. Can number 15 develop into a terrific player? Steven, I'll speak for both of us because I know that you don't like to talk about some of these trade ideas before they essentially come to fruition. But in a nutshell, would Hurdle benefit this team? Absolutely. Is he someone that really makes sense for the Rangers right now? Based on value, probably not, for what the Rangers would have to cough up to get him and what the Rangers' current status is with Ryan Strome. I will be pretty surprised if the Rangers found themselves landing a Tomas Hurdle, just because the Rangers have already been in extension talks with Ryan Strome as it is. You have two players that, are similar in the sense that they're both deserving of being, that second line centerman. I would find it hard to believe that Hurdle would be pushed to the third line. Would it add depth to this team? Would the Rangers be a far greater team in my mind for playoffs? Absolutely. I mean, your team gets a million times deeper when you bring someone like Hurdle in. But do I think that's something the Rangers are going to prioritize? No, I do not. I don't think. I think the Rangers have had interest in Hurdle. I don't think he's someone that will be prioritized. However, knowing that he is on a pretty price point right now. But to also answer your question, can 15 develop into a terrific player? That being Gauthier. Terrific, that's a loose term. I think it depends on who you talk to. I think in just being an effective top 9 forward, I think he definitely has the potential there. Yes.
Can he? I don't know. How old is Julien Gauthier now?
He's 24, 25 at least.
Okay. Matt Zuccarello didn't become an NHL regular until he was 26.
And how old was Panarin? Like 23, 24?
Panarin came over to the NHL in 2015. He was born in 91, so he was almost 24.
Yeah, Gauthier is 25 in October.
Okay, well, time's ticking, but look, I'm not expecting him to become a top-line player in the league.
Yeah.
If he can round out his game and pot some goals and play the same type of hockey that he does now, he can be a very valuable third-line player. I'm not expecting miracles out of the kid. I just want him to score some more goals, and then I'm happy.
Agreed. I think he's someone that, he's very easy to root for. And I definitely want the Rangers to get something out of that Joey Keane trade. Now, Joey hasn't had much of an impact for Carolina yet, but I think that just says a lot more on their defensive depth than it does his play. But yeah, I thought that was a trade that made sense for both teams at the time. I stand by that. And he's someone that I really do think that there's potential in, not giving up on too soon. Gauthier is a player that I could see thriving in a separate organization, which is unfortunate. I want the Rangers to actually continue working on development of young talent, and Gauthier fits that mold. We may have not drafted him, but he's a player that we're trying to get the most out of right now. So by all means, continue trying to make that work. Here's a good comment from Phillips. Says, with Fox coming back, would leaving our top 4 as they were pre-injury and having Jones with Schneider be our bottom pair make any sense? Personally, I think that makes a lot of sense, to be quite honest. I think, what do you have to lose at this point from what we've seen with fellow left-handed defensemen, right?
Well, Gallant says that he's uncomfortable playing 2 rookies on the same team.
I know he's uncomfortable, but come on. Something push has to, let me put it this way. Is Gallant still at the same comfortability level with Nemeth, with Tenorti, like he was in the beginning of the season? Why both those players aren't in the lineup?
The question here is, would it make any sense? Are you asking us what is going to happen, or what we want to happen? Because we're talking about 2 different things then.
I think he's saying, what we want to happen. Does it make sense to us?
Okay, so what I want to happen is, yes, for Schneider and Jones to stay on the team. Because I would play Matthew Robertson over Libor Hayek and Patrick Nemeth.
Yeah.
If you ask me to put together a pairings for the Rangers, you know what? Let's do it. First pairing, Lindgren Fox. Second pairing, Miller Trouba. Third pairing, Jones Schneider. Fourth pairing would be Robertson Lundqvist. Fifth pairing, Reunanen and Skinner. Sixth pairing, now you're getting in Hayek, Nemeth, Tenorti, Boteto territory. So we have 10 defensemen that I would pick over Nemeth, Tenorti, and Hayek. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. You and I have been on that same page for a while now. Whether that holds true in the end, we'll see. But I will say that I genuinely appreciate how Gallant has not been stubborn to the same extent like what we saw with a David Quinn and with some other former coaches. Like you can tell that at least throughout the season, he is getting somewhat of an understanding of what's working and what isn't. It's not perfect by any stretch. There's definitely things that us fans have been bothered by, whether it's lineup configurations or just who's in the lineup, who's not. But something like Nemeth, knowing he's on a 3-year contract, to realize this soon that this is the guy that is not going to lead us to success right away is something that I really appreciate, because that's the same deal that you might see Nemeth play every single game of the season still, regardless on his performance, right? And even with Tenorti to a certain extent. Yes, I know that he's a 7th defenseman at best, but point being is that it didn't take too long to actually realize that, yeah, this guy's working. Hayek, I think, is finding himself down that same slippery slope, to be quite honest with you. And I think as long as Schneider continues to play the way that he has, which I think has been very solid, not overwhelming at all, nothing crazy on the pro or the cons, just solid defensive play from a rookie this early in his career. Jones, I think, has had some very impressive games. I think he's had some games that have been underwhelming, but I also think that goes in hand with his D partner, Lieber Hayek, if I'm being honest here. And then Niels is kind of that guy that's looming. When Niels has looks good in some games, I think some games he looked underwhelming. I think he's a little just below Schneider right now from what we're seeing and what Gallant actually wants, but all guys that I do think are capable of game time, and rightfully so, because that's your future defensively, right? At some point, you have to realize, okay, even if they're going to have their struggles, you rather your struggles be with your young guys that are supposed to be your core defensemen going forward versus your placeholders. That's the big thing that has always stood out about me. If you're going to allow a veteran to have struggles on almost a nightly basis and keep them in this damn lineup, why can't you do the same for players that are supposed to be here and develop for the years going forward? That's what always stood out about me. Look, if that veteran is an X factor and he gives you a better chance to win every night, then okay. I understand it. I might want the younger players to get more playing time, but I understand why you don't have them in the lineup yet, because you're pushing for the playoffs and you have playoff caliber players. Rangers don't have that.
We aren't talking about Mark Giordano here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If we have Mark Giordano taking away ice time from Zach Jones, you won't hear any complaints from me.
Exactly.
I would have given up a first-round pick and more to get Mattias Ekholm last summer. Because if you are going to acquire a veteran defenseman to help your prospects transition into life in the NHL, go for one that actually contributes. Don't go dumpster diving in free agency.
No, you're 100% right. It's frustrating, but again, in a nutshell, to stop harping on this now, I'm happy with what Gallant has proven this year to show his ability to adjust. I think that's something that's so hard, especially for a veteran coach. They always have a stubbornness to them just because they feel, it's this way or the highway, right? He's proving rather quickly, only halfway through a season, his ability to understand that changes need to be made. Whether they stay long or short, again, that varies on the situation, but all in all, I appreciate that about him, along with plenty of things. And shout out to Turk getting his 300th NHL win as a head coach in that victory over the Panthers. So very happy for Gallant as well in that front. But we'll be getting on to
against his former team.
And it was hilarious because post-game he was asked, why did he put Revo on the top line? And his response was, to just bother them a little bit, bother the Panthers, kind of send a message, have them on their toes a little bit to Huberdeau and Barkov that he knows very well. I like that. Not that it's going to result in, great offensive success right away. Thankfully, the Rangers scored 35 seconds in the game. But it's nice knowing that his mindset, like there's justifiable reasons behind what he's doing. So to have Reeves in there in the beginning, then to put Laffy in shortly after, I'm okay with that. Like, that's okay. Like, those are like quick in-game adjustments. That's like, okay, I understand. Maybe it's not going to be groundbreaking, but there was some type of thought process behind that, which again, I appreciate about him. But Joey, what a good comment here. And this will wrap up our Q&A for today's episode. How would he feel about the Rangers going after Brock Besser? He apparently is not an untouchable and seems like he needs a fresh start somewhere. Interesting that we're talking about a Canuck that is not named JT Miller, right? Besser's someone where you look at his career, you look at his age, he's favorable in that front. He's only 24. He's an RFA after the year. Contract-wise, that's the big thing. How much is he going to drop or stay the same? Because he's at a base right now of just under $6 million after this season. Is that something the Rangers can afford? Hell no. Okay. Would he definitely help fit the mold for you at the right wing position, on the wing? Yes. But this, again, goes and contradicts the Buchnevich parting ways on a multi-year deal with someone that's still young and that is, again, having a little bit of a down year, but so is Vancouver, 24 points in 40 games. Besser has been a little inconsistent goal scoring these past couple of years, really since, the pandemic started, but still is someone that is young, has plenty of upside, has a great shot. Besser's someone that I don't see the Rangers going after. I think his value is still going to be extraordinarily high. And while I would love the Rangers to get young guys that can help this core group, again, my concern is how are you going to be able to afford them? How are you going to be able
Yeah.
to keep them in this top 6 when you're trying to focus on the development of Alexi Lafreniere, of Capo Caco, and to a lesser degree, going into the season, that wasn't part the Buchnevich trade reasoning, Vitaly Krasov, up until everything happened. Like many of us believed that Vitaly was going to be a top 9 player for the Rangers this year, and look at what happened. So point being is the Rangers, I think, through and through need to focus on their development if they're looking at acquiring young forwards for their top 6. Not that Besser would be a detriment to the team, but if you look at the context of everything with the contract, what he's going to be looking for on a multi-year deal, and what the Rangers need to do on focusing on their own in-house development, I think that's enough to say that, yeah, I would prefer if the Rangers stand pat and just keep pushing through with what they currently have top 6-wise. And then bottom 6 is where, I'm not against our Terry Lehkonen that the Rangers have shown interest in among some other players. So, Steven, any final comments on Besser before we wrap things up?
I would hate for Chris Drury to give up a bigger package for a worse player to replace Buchnevich.
Yes.
That's all I'll say about the winger position. If you're going to give up a big package for a young player, go for a guy like Rope Hintz, or even though I'm not a fan, Dylan Larkin. Go for if you're deciding to move on from Ryan Strome and you're going to use your assets to get better, go for a guy that is 22, 23 years old that can help you at center, that plays a good defensive game. It sucks so much that the Rangers were not in a position to draft Anton Lundell because he fits this team like a glove.
He's the future Selke winner that the Rangers have desperately been needing over these years.
Yes.
Even when you look at the depth center wise, the Rangers have not had that guy. They haven't had a balanced center like that since Messier.
The Florida Panthers might be the first team to have 2 Selke candidates on the same team.
Yeah.
In a long time.
Yep. And it won't be this is only the first of many years where we're going to be hearing that. And good for them. I think Lundell's a perfect fit there. I love that he gets to work behind Barkov. I love that Finnish connection. I think it's really cool.
Anton Lundell was snubbed for the all-rookie team. Rookie all-star team.
He was. Yep.
My Calder vote is still Moritz Seider, but I'm leaning towards Lundell over Lucas Raymond now for that second spot in the Calder voting.
I think if Raymond has a hot second half, I'm probably favoring Raymond solely because of the fact of when you look at what's around him. Not that Detroit isn't talented, but the Panthers are just a deeper, a better structured team.
Okay. So here's an interesting discussion then. Does playing on a better team hurt you or not as a young player? Because for the last 2 years, all I've heard Ranger fans complain about is that the reason Lafreniere and Kako are not producing is because they play on a good team and they have better players in front of them. Anton Lundell was playing on the third line in Florida, and he's putting up the same numbers as Lucas Raymond. Plus, he plays a better defensive game. Plus, he starts 60% of his shifts in the defensive zone.
I agree in the notion that being on a better team is, of course, better for a young talent as long as they aren't given sheltered minutes.
As long as the Rangers are on.
Yeah, literally, quite because this is
if
important.
You're on a better team, it benefits you as long as that team's not the Rangers. Yeah, there you go.
Rangers are an outlier because they are that same team that's given Alexi Lafreniere less minutes than any other first overall pick in how long. Like,
and you know what?
That context is important to look at.
I'll say one thing about Lafreniere. No one can make the argument that the reason Lafreniere is not getting enough minutes is because we have too many good players ahead of him. When you consistently play Barclay Goodrow, Sammy Blais, and Dryden Hunt in the top 6.
Yeah, it's preference is what
I'm sorry. It took injuries to Philip Hedl, Capo Caco, and Sammy Blais at the same time for Lafreniere to get another look in the top 6. Exactly. And now for the second time in his career, he has back-to-back games with a goal.
Yep.
There's no reason Dryden Hunt or Barclay Goodrow should be in the top 6. And when Philip Hedl comes back, He can be a winger on the third line.
I will give a tip of the cap to Goudreau, however. He has been playing some good hockey.
Goudreau is basically our new Jesper Fast.
Yes,
He's
that's
a
exactly what he is.
He's a bottom player who, when you run into problems with injuries or maybe a suspension, you can temporarily put him in your top 6 and it won't hurt you.
Correct. But having him like all year long is where you're going to see your obvious ups and downs with him. So as long as you're pretty strategic about when you utilize him, he's a good get. I like Goudreau.
And now that we're talking about bottom 6 players that were playing in the top 6, special thanks to Colin Blackwell for not scoring on Sunday.
I know that was brave of him. It really was.
Anyway, do you have any more questions before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. The one thing that I just want us to briefly touch on, because the next time we talk probably won't be until after the All-Star break is finished, my guess, maybe even after a couple games. So we'll go with the notion that the Rangers will play a couple games before we talk again. Unless we change things up, which of course can happen. It's not a big deal. But the upcoming schedule for the Rangers, again, they have, they are off now until the 15th of February. And that is going to be against the Boston Bruins. Then they have the 17th of February against the Detroit Red Wings, both games at home. Then they come and they play Ottawa on the 20th. And then they have quite the break until they play the Capitals then. So my guess right now, based on how this schedule is, I would probably say we won't talk again until the
22nd, 23rd.
Yeah. I would say the 20. I would say the 20. Let's eye the 21st or the 22nd, because if we can eliminate recording the same day or even at times before a game, do it, because that way it gives people longevity when they're listening. Because that's something that I have noticed, and I don't blame them. Like I enjoy podcasts too, but if you're going to listen to a pod, and maybe you miss it and you have to listen to it the next day, a game already happened, you're kind of like, oh, like, what's the point? Like, this isn't the latest thing that's happening with the team. So I don't blame anyone that feels that way, because I find myself in that same category for all sports. So we'll try to be a little bit better at that. It's a little hard at times given our schedules, but we'll try to make that happen. So as of now, book us for the week of the 21st is when we'll be back recording. Until then, I hope that everyone has a fantastic next couple of weeks during this All-Star break. I know
we're not doing predictions.
We will do predictions. I'm just telling everyone.
Okay.
Break, Steven. We got to go over number 47 too. So
I thought you were already wrapping up. I'm like, no, I'm not done yet.
No. So prediction-wise, next 3 games for the Rangers, 15th, 17th, and 20th. Boston, Detroit, and Ottawa, because I am the champion, and rightfully so. I'm going to go for these.
No. You don't have to rub it in with.
I'm not rubbing it in. You know what we need to do though? We need to chip in and actually get a belt made. Like so.
We should.
So we both like have one at our houses, but we can only make it public as if, And
then the winner can wear it.
And we can get the Rangers Review logo on it because it's a nice circle. Like, yeah.
Sounds good.
See, I'm big brain thinking right now. But over these next 3 games, Boston, Detroit, Ottawa. I'm going to go for this one 2-0-1.
2-0-1.
And over those games, I'm going to say that the Rangers score 10.
Damn. You always find a way to pick the number that I have in my head.
It's funny because whenever you get first choice, that's exactly what happens to me. So it's like we're both thinking the same thing.
We're really good at this then.
Yeah.
Or equally bad.
Yes. Just make sure you document it because it's going to be a while until we talk again.
I'm going to go with 9 goals then. I will leave it here on my monitor. Okay. That leaves us with one more thing to do.
Number 47.
Number 47. How many can you name before we go over it?
There's at least 2.
There's one this season. If you don't get that one, I know.
No, Morgan Barron's the obvious one.
Yeah. Morgan
the
Barron.
Other one that's obvious to me, because he popped in my head right away, which is funny because I think I've talked about him before, or maybe I just guessed him when I was wrong. The number is Steven Kampfer. I know he's definitely one.
Yes. I did not expect you to get that one.
And There's definitely one more player that either like wore it in preseason or didn't wear it long, and I can't
Yeah,
think of. I
NHL
can't
debut.
debut. Oh shit! I'm not. I don't. There's definitely a player that changed his number. I don't know who it is though.
I'm gonna name them from most recent backwards.
Okay.
Morgan Barron, Stephen Kampfer, JT Miller,
Oh, that's probably it then. Yeah.
Mike Green, Barrett
Wait, Mike
Heist.
Green.
That's a different Mike Green.
Okay, not defenseman Mike Green. I was gonna say.
Hold on. I just want to make sure I get this right. This is a different. Yeah, this is Mike Green that played a total of 24 NHL games. 11 as a Florida Panther and 13 as a New York Ranger. 1 goal, 3 assists in his career.
What a stud! Love that.
As a center, by the way. So yeah.
Oh wow.
So not the Mike Green that we all know.
Someone said in the chat, Eminger, was he number 47?
No, it's 44.
Oh, okay.
Eminger was 44. Yeah. Talk about reliable seventh defenseman, Steve Eminger. That's the type of guy we need behind our rookies. Anyway, to continue the list of numbers 47, Barrett Heiston, and then Rich Pilon. It's probably Pilon because it's French Canadian. Mark Janssens in 1989. Steve Nemeth, not related to Patrick Nemeth.
I would hope not.
And the first Ranger to ever wear number 47 in the 1986-87 season is New York Islanders first round pick, Pat Price.
Wow. Okay.
Played for the Islanders, the Edmonton Oilers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Quebec Nordiques, then the New York Rangers, and finished his career with the Minnesota North Stars in 1988. Played a total of 726 NHL games.
At least he got to finish out his career with one of the most simply beautiful jerseys the NHL has seen.
Oh yes,
North Stars are so sick.
The North Star jerseys are epic, and I'm glad that with their reverse retro, the Minnesota Wild went with the North Star theme, at least the color scheme.
Yeah. Did he play with Madonna or no?
Probably late 80s. Let me see. His only
Wait, he didn't play with David Quinn, did he? Didn't Quinn get drafted by the North Stars? Right? I thought Quinn got
I don't think Quinn ever played in the NHL.
I don't think he did, but I know he got drafted by them. He's a first
round. He didn't play with Madonna. He did play with Mitch Messier. I didn't know there was a Mitch Messier.
Okay.
Some players on that team: Dino Ciccarelli, Brian Bellows, Brian McClellan, Brian Lawton. A lot of Brians on this team. Neil Broughton, Dave Archibald, Rob Brooke, Scott Bukestad, father of Nick Bukestad. that
makes perfect sense. Minnesota North Stars, Bukestad, and then of course Bukestad, the latest one, has been Minnesota, from Minnesota, played at University of Minnesota for college. It's all connecting. All right, we got a fun stat.
Listen, hockey is, out of all the sports I follow, is probably the smallest world. Because
there are a lot of interconnections for sure.
There are a lot of familiarities, family connections. But yeah, number 47, Morgan Barron, the latest one.
Yep. We'll see if he sticks with that number. That's something I'm a little intrigued to see if he's going to stay with 47 or not.
Well, he switched to number 27 in Hartford.
Okay.
But that number is taken by Henrik Lundqvist at the moment, who plays with number 13 in Hartford.
Maybe he'll switch to 72 and Hedl gets inevitably traded. I don't know.
That's possible. Or he just picks a completely different number. Who knows?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Go with 17 when Kevin Rooney leaves.
You're not wrong. Anything's possible. So
I don't want Rooney to leave. By the way,
I don't want Rooney to leave either. I'm just saying, we're just spitballing here.
This may sound weird, but I need a Kevin Rooney jersey in my collection.
I don't think that's weird. I know you like him.
Kevin Rooney is low key one of my favorite Rangers on this team, and it's mainly because of the way he was mocking Tom Wilson.
Yeah,
he's a legend forever.
You gotta frame that on your wall. So you need to get a laminated photo of him with like, well, you got to get it of him when he's on the bench, but still far enough where you see Wilson looking at him. So like, it has to be like, you got to do it like that.
I need to get that signed by Kevin Rooney too.
Yeah.
Imagine walking up to him with like this big ass photo of him mocking Tom Wilson and handing him a marker.
Just tell your fiance next time she goes to the game, because she's probably going to one soon. Do exactly that and have it get signed for you. Say to Steven.
He took a picture last night with Mika Zibanejad, and someone commented on her tweet, "Who has the better flow?" So I responded by saying Mika.
That's a respectable person to get outflowed by. However,
I'm sure she'll forgive me, and she might even agree with me. So
yes, that's true. But that's going to do it for this episode of Rangers Review. Thank you guys so much for listening, whether you're live or watching on replay here on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate it. This was episode 47. We'll be back really in 2 to 3 weeks from now until after the Rangers play a couple more games post All-Star break. We'll see how they do. But more than anything, thank you guys all so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you soon. And Steven, let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.